Hi guys, it's Carissa, and in a recent video, a surprising number of you were actually interested in my method for hard-boiled eggs. And I guess I can kind of understand because a few years ago I got so tired of not getting them right on a regular basis that I researched a bunch of different methods, and I found that this one worked for me not only the first time but every time since. So if you want to just get to the basic instructions, I will have those linked below this video, as well as credit to the website that I found it on. I'm not sure where, but I copied and pasted the instructions in Word, printed it out, cut it out in this little ratty strip of paper, and I have this attached to the side of my refrigerator, kind of where nobody can really see it. And I refer to it every single time because I forget that easily what it is I do exactly. Even though I make eggs almost every week, I always just kind of want to remind myself, wait, what do I do again? And this is just a little bit of a comfort to me, I guess. So you may want to do the same thing. I don't know, maybe you've got a classier, like, recipe container that you can put it in or something. But I do have some other tips that I think that are very important. So I'm gonna list those here in this video. And I filmed a bunch of footage the last time I cooked eggs, and it was kind of late and it was sort of dark in my kitchen. So the footage is crap. Plus I am old now apparently and can't tell when I think my phone is in landscape and it switches to portrait because I'm tipping it forward and I didn't think to put the lock on it and all that. So I lost a bunch of footage because it's in the wrong direction. I don't want to talk about it. All right, so the first thing that you want to make sure you do is use old eggs because you want to make sure that the eggs are old enough that they will release from the shell easily and they won't get stuck and be difficult to peel. So I will typically buy a carton of eggs and yes, I do buy eggs and I will explain that in a moment. But I'll buy a carton of eggs in advance of when I'm going to boil them 1 to 2 weeks later. So the eggs that I'm purchasing, I won't be boiling for at least 1 week from the day that I buy them. You also want to make sure you have plenty of ice made, and I'm talking at least 2 ice cube trays full worth of ice. So sometimes what I do, because I don't really use ice for my beverages or anything myself, but Mike does. So I make sure that a few days before I'm planning on making eggs, I have a Tupperware container or a plastic bowl in the freezer, and I'm emptying out pre-made ice cubes in that bowl set aside just specifically for the eggs, and then I'll just refill the trays and Mike will take from the trays instead of the bowl. So that's really helpful. I really do believe the more ice the better. I mean, don't go crazy, but at least 2 trays worth minimum. Now the reason I purchase eggs, even though I have 4 chickens who all lay fresh, wonderful eggs themselves, the problem is those eggs are far, far too fresh. But when it comes to hard boiling, and I don't know if you've ever hard boiled a really fresh egg before, but it sticks to the shell and you rip it apart and you can barely get the egg out of the shell. So what I like to do is I buy eggs, and yes, I do just buy white eggs. And the main reason is, especially right now, there is an egg shortage, and so eggs are a lot more expensive than they normally are. I get brown eggs for free in my yard. I am not going to spend $6 on a dozen of eggs just because they're not white eggs. If you want the yolk centered so that when you cut into the egg, the yolk is pretty much in the middle, and this is really more important just for deviled eggs for presentation. The trick is, for at least 1 hour prior to boiling, you want the container to be set up sideways. Now what I do, because I don't always know the exact day or, I get distracted, I like to just make sure that they're already ready to be boiled at any given time. When I put them in the fridge, I set them up like this. The egg has, and I don't know why that's the case, but the yolk has a chance to kind of set in the middle of the egg, and so when you boil it, it sort of stays in that spot when you transfer it from this container to the pot. The other problem with using eggs that are too fresh is that trick won't work to center the yolk because the egg will float and it will float upright, whereas an older egg will lay on its side while it's boiling in the bottom of the pot, and that keeps the yolk in the middle. I usually boil my eggs a dozen at a time. I put them all in a single layer in the bottom of a really large soup stock pot, and you always read, have the water be about 1 inch above the eggs. And I never realized how much I was shortchanging myself on the water just visibly looking into the pot, because you just assume you have enough water in there, and it never was enough. Now what I do is I stick my finger in and touch one of the eggs while the water is rising, and I'll have an idea of about how far the water is above the egg. And a lot of times I would have stopped just by looking at it, I would have stopped it a lot sooner. So you want to make sure you have enough water in the pot. If you don't, when it starts boiling, the eggs can jostle really badly and start to crack. And then just before the eggs are done, I will fill it up with cold water from the tap, and then I'll remove the eggs from the burner, and with a slotted spoon, I'll take them out and put them into the ice bath. And make sure to really plunge them in there and have them covered by the ice. The ice will start to melt, but that's fine. If you need to add a little bit more ice or a little bit more cold water to it, that's all you need to do. If you make sure to have the eggs sitting in some nice ice cold water for about 10 minutes, that will prevent the darkening of the yolk. That's really not bad in any way. It doesn't affect the flavor or the texture. It just looks gross. So if you get that grayish, greenish ring around your yolk, this is how you prevent that. And then what I do is I take them out with that same slotted spoon and dry them off on a towel and just pop them into, I've got an open egg container that I put them in the fridge. They crack so easily, honestly. I like to tap them on each side. But what I do is, pretend this is an egg, I will tap it on each end, and then I'll start to tap the sides and sort of roll it and make little cracks all over. And the shell should just pretty much pop right off. I mean, it couldn't be easier than that. And then when you cut it open, it should be a beautiful, perfectly centered yolk, yellow with no rings around it or anything. So I hope this method works for you. I know there's a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of nonsense, like Pinterest style nonsense. But for me, this method is the only thing that consistently works and always provides good results. Thank you so much for watching and for asking about my snobby hard-boiled egg routine. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.